So how do you know when your sourdough starter is ready to bake with? Well, if you have a look at this one, it's done its thing now. It's risen right to the top of the jar that it's in. And if we take a spoon of the sourdough starter and we drop it into some water, take some coaxing to get off the spoon. If it floats, then you know that it's ready to bake with. So you can see that this is floating, it's not sinking down to the bottom. So this is ready to make bread with. So as you remember, I did half in the jar. So that'll now go in the fridge for next week. And half is in my bread bowl, ready to do a bread mix. Okay, so we know it's time to make the sourdough. I think a lot of people are put off making sourdough because it looks really complicated, but it's really not. So you've got your 2 cups of starter, and we've gone through how to make and get that, and it's ready to go. And so to that, the first thing I'm going to add is, got a little scoop, I'll use my proper spoon for you. I'm going to add a teaspoon of Himalayan rock salt in here. You don't have to use rock salt, you can use any salt that you have around, but I prefer non-iodized salt for all of my preserving and cooking. Now this is my secret ingredient. I always add rosemary to my bread. I think you get a much nicer taste when you add rosemary to your bread. So like, I'm going to put my spoon down because I'm really bad. I'll just shake it in. So a decent amount of rosemary. I'm not a purist. I've told you this heaps of times. And I'm going to do 2 cups of water. So this is just the jar that I put the floaty sourdough in. So there's 1 cup, and 2 cups of water. And then I'm using my baker's flour, so this is unbleached flour. I get a really good sourdough loaf out of this. I like using this one. I'm just going to dry my cup. Probably should have put the flour in before the water. And now you can either use 5 cups of this flour, or you can use 5 cups and a cup of seed, which is what I normally do. But today, because I'm showing you a simple loaf, I'm actually going to do, instead of a cup of seeds I normally put in, I'm just going to use a 1/6 cup of flour. Just to show you a really simple white sourdough loaf. So there's my 6 cups. So 6 cups of flour, 2 cups of water, a teaspoon of salt, you may want to increase that a little bit, and rosemary. That's what I've added to my starter. And now I'm going to use the butter knife to stir it all in together. And that's all there really is to it. So once you see it starting to come together with the knife and it's getting difficult to stir, then it's time to get your fingers stuck in there for a bit of a knead. Just wanting to make sure that everything is really well combined. Now when you first start to knead, the dough can seem really sticky and it's really tempting to add more flour. But as the gluten and the flour gives, you'll find that, and if you use seeds as well, you'll find that a lot more of the water is absorbed by the flour, and you don't want to start adding too much flour and drying it out too much. It should still make quite a sticky dough. So use the heel of your hands and push down, and this first knead is really, really important to get a really nice, smooth, elastic dough. So you can see it's coming together pretty much as one nice lump here. I'm just going to get as much out of the bowl as I can. And then I'm going to move the bowl and I'm going to knead on my counter here. That gluten's really starting to give now. I can feel my dough starting to get sticky, so it's going to pick up all of these pieces from the counter. Okay, so that's a really good first knead. And so all I'm going to do with that is pop it back in the bowl, and it's probably going to sit overnight here, and when I get up in the morning it should be twice its size, pretty much like fill almost 3/4 of the bowl, and then it will be ready for cutting in half, kneading again and actually putting into the containers I'm going to bake it in. Now in summer I make sure that I wet a tea towel and put it over this, because otherwise the dough will dry out and you get like a really thick crust on top that you don't really want at this stage. In winter I don't bother too much with that. It's not hot enough to dry it out. So I'm just going to clean away my area here and leave this, and we'll check on it in the morning. So you can see overnight the sourdough's really, really swallowed up and more than doubled in size. So now it's time for the second knead, and I'm going to put it into my containers. I do probably a more traditional round shaped sourdough in this one, but I also do a sandwich loaf, as I find this is really good for my daughter who goes to school for her lunchbox. So we're going to do 2 loaves out of this sourdough. You could do one giant one on a tray, but this is what works for us. Now today when I get this out, it's going to be a lot stickier, so you're going to want to put a little bit of flour on your counter for this knead, just so you don't stick. little bit. You can see as I cut, immediately the dough starts to collapse because that lovely rise has been created by all the air in the dough, and that's what you want. Okay, now with this knead, you want to get 2 special folds in there this time. You saw my kneading yesterday, I was just pushing down the heels of my hand. But you want to get both ways, like a letter fold into your dough. So that's just what you kind of do thirds. You fold it across and then you fold it across one way. That's one letter fold. And then I'm going to give it a knead just like you saw yesterday. And then I'm going to let fold it again a second time. And I don't need to go crazy with my knead this time. The dough is really good. So I've put my first sourdough into the round mould. And now I'm going to repeat the same technique for the next sourdough. So I'm going to start by doing that business letter fold and a nice little knead. And again, the business letter fold. This time, I'm not making a round, I'm making a long shape to go. And you can see it doesn't need much kneading this time around because we really kneaded it well that first time. And pretty much what we've just done with it has pushed out the air ready for the second knead. I'm just going to pull the shape to fit the mould, and then it will do that fantastic swelling that you saw earlier, and it will actually fill the container. I'm just going to dust it with some flour. Dust that one with some flour. Now the last step is to cut some air slashes in. Now traditionally sourdough, they use a tool for this with a razor blade. I don't have that, so I've told you I'm not a purist. I work with what I have. So I'm just going to use a serrated knife and do some slashes on these. When I'm quite deep. Careful not to cut the mould. This one. And that's 2. If you want to do any decorations or stick any seeds on top, now's the time that you can do that too. So I'll just clean up here and decorate the top. I like using pepitas for decoration. You have to do this while the dough is sticky. If you let it sit here for any length of time, it will dry and then the seeds won't stick to it. So 4 hours ago, we did the knead, and as you can see, our bread has really risen up and grown, so it looks good. I think it's ready to go in the oven now. I've preheated the oven today. I'm gonna do a little bit of a try and put it on a little bit hotter temperature. So I've done my oven to about 230 degrees, and I have put the water in there, so it should be nice and steamy. I'm gonna go pop these into the oven. Bread. Beautiful. And we've just put the timer on because I've got the hotter temperature today. I'm going to just do 35 minutes and I'll check on it then and see if it's ready to go. Okay, so the oven's going off and the bread is looking really good. So it's time to grab it out of the oven. On my other oven mitt. So I have got a loaf, a sandwich loaf, and you can hear the hollow sound. I told you would let you know that it's ready. And I've done a more traditional round loaf. Ooh, my little seeds have popped off. That's how easy it is to make your sourdough. I think people overcomplicate sourdough. They make it seem like it's really difficult. It doesn't have to be.